everybody, it's Rochelle Melville here, Rockmelon Recycled, coming to you as part of Lulu Art Design Team for 2017. And today we're going to take an ordinary canvas and make it extraordinary, but we're going to get messy. So we need some Mod Podge, we need some paint, we need some paint brushes, we're going to need a stamp set, and which is Donna Poppies, and we're going to need a stamp pad. I've got an archival black pad, which is awesome, from StazOn. The other things you'll need is just some scissors, you'll need 2 stencils, and you'll also need some sort of paper for your background. You can buy it in a paper pack, you can use my printouts, you can also just use some sort of old sheet music or dictionary paper that you find in the op shops. Now don't be too precious about your background, because most of it actually will be covered with your paint and also with the flowers, the poppies that we'll be using. So all we're going to do is start applying it to your background. I use a foam brush with the Mod Podge, but you can use an ordinary brush as well. So what you want to do is you want to cover the entire canvas with your Mod Podge. Now Mod Podge dries relatively quickly, so I always work very quickly when I'm using the Mod Podge. I've covered the whole lot, and now I'm just going to pop down my sheets. Mine fit almost on it, so I'm just going to fold the edges over. You can either tear it or cut it before you put it on, or just fold them around the sides. I like to use op shop canvases. You can use brand new ones, but I'm covering it completely, so I don't really need a new one. Make sure your entire surface is sealed really well with your Mod Podge over your paper. You don't really want to see any of your background. So I'm just going to tear and stick until it's all completely covered. Once your canvas is completely covered, I always like to dry it off with a hairdryer. Now we're going to be painting our background. And what we want to do is just send those pages to the back. And I'm going to do that by adding a faint layer of white paint, and I'm going to be using, as you can see, a thick piece of card about the size of a credit card, and I'm spreading it on that way. I don't want it so even as I would put with a paintbrush, and in the end I'm just going to rub it on with my fingers. I'm going to do the edges as well so I don't see what used to be on my canvas. Drying it off between again, all ready for my layers of colour. Now the paint we're going to use this morning, we're going to use London Blue, we're going to use Fresh Lime, and we're going to use Vibrant Turquoise. They're the first 3 because they're going to act like, I guess, a little bit like the leaves of the poppies that we're going to be using. And now we're going to get messy. I like to use my fingers. I find it a lovely technique. And I'm not one that makes things really exact. Now the white paint on my fingers is dry, so I'm just going to dip my fingers straight into the pots and put some stripes in. I guess I'm wanting to emphasize that the plants grow up, the stalks of the poppies would be growing up, but I'm also wanting them to look a bit like a bouquet, so they're going to go up vertically as well as horizontally. And I'm just using my 3 colors and mixing them in a random way. I am keeping the fingers that I've used already out of the paint pot. I'm always using a new finger. You can wipe your finger between colours. I'm wanting a bit more light. It looks like there's a little bit too much dark in my canvas, so I've gone to the lime zest. I'm also starting to paint the edges of my canvas as well with some green, turquoise and blue. Now I wanted to give the illusion that there are some stems, so I'm just using the back of a paintbrush, or you can use a popsicle stick, just to create some lines, to give some movement and to break up those big blocks of colour that we've created with our finger painting. So again, to break our stripes now, I want to give the illusion that there's leaves, that there's poppies that haven't opened. So all I'm using is my finger to make dots on the canvas. And again, I'm not going to neglect the edges. So I'm going to do that in 2 colours, in the lime zest as well as the turquoise. Just spread them out. Make sure that doesn't look too even. Put a couple together, put some by themselves, and sort of create a flow over the page from one corner to the other. I'm going to dry that a little with the hairdryer, but my next step will take quite a while, so I'm actually going to put that aside to dry fully, and there's quite globby paint there, so I really want it to be dry for our next step. Now we're going to use pink bubble gum, we're going to use crushed grape, and we're going to use lemon zest. You now need to grab your black stamp pad with our Donna Poppy's stamps. I'm using the smaller stamp set today with an acrylic block. I'm going to adhere it to my acrylic block, take off the backing paper and place it on by giving it a firm push. The best way to ink a stamp pad is to lightly tap it on. Now there's quite a block of black in the middle of this stamp, so you really need to get in there and make sure that's completely black as you stamp. I'm going to push firmly. I'm also just stamping on ordinary A4 photocopy paper, so it's quite thin and it's going to adhere well to my page. So stamp out at least 12. I probably would stamp out 16 so you have some to really play with. Now you really need to get into your paint with your finger. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a little bit of paint onto my paint palette, which is just an old China side plate, and I am mixing up some orange out of my pink and yellow, but first I've made my yellow. So I want to make sure that my yellow stays nice and clear, so I'm going to put that onto my paper first, and I'm just layering on the pink quite thickly and then blending just with my finger. This is not supposed to make every crevice or shadow, but I'm just making some outer colors and some inner colors and allowing the paint to mix on my finger and on the paper. I'm not going to be too fussy. If you make a mistake and it's not quite the right color, you can usually just rub it off a little bit with a paper towel. Leaving the lighter colors for the middle and the darker colors for the outside. Just finger paint all of your poppies. And rather than fussing, just enjoy what it's like to finger paint. When we've got our poppies all painted up nice and vibrantly, we're going to just simply dry them off with our hairdryer because we want to cut them out straight away. So when they're dry, grab your scissors, cut them out. If you're finding it difficult to see through the paint, turn it over. You can actually see the stamped image through the back, and you can still cut your outline out very accurately because the purple is dark and a little bit hard to cut through. So go ahead and cut those out. You'll need at least 12, maybe more. So cut all out that you've painted up. Now that we have our beautiful bouquet cut out, we need to make sure that our canvas is 100% dry, especially those big blobby bits, because we want to grab our Mod Podge and we're going to Mod Podge our poppies onto our canvas. Just placing it on the back with a paintbrush, and I'm just putting them on in a random order so that we have some that are standing up in the field and some that are more leaning over in the bouquet style. Nice and wet with our Mod Podge, and I'm also going to overlap some of them as well so they look quite natural and slightly over some of the sides. intentionally left an area free on the upper left hand side because that's where we're going to use our stencil. Once they're all adhered well and you have dried them with your hairdryer, you then want to put a full layer of Mod Podge over the surface of everything to seal it. It also brings out the colour but also protects your work. So lots of Mod Podge layer, and again dry it off really well because we're going to use our stencil next. Our first stencil is I am an artist, and what a great declaration for anyone who dabbles in arty things and paint to declare I am an artist. So I'm just going to use a little brush and some black paint. When you're using a stencil, you want to offload your paint. You do not want too much, and you want to make sure you always use a very dry brush or foam applicator. I'm just moving my stencil over and doing the next words. I'm going to come back and do the "an", but so far I've got I am and the word artist. And when I remove it, I'm going to use my next stencil, which is called Inspired Words. That's by TCW Stencils, and put create down in the corner facing the opposite way. And I'm pretty much done. After I give that a layer of Mod Podge over the black stencil words, I am done. So this is Rochelle Melville signing out now. Hope you've enjoyed my painty DIY tutorial and that you can go and do something on a canvas for yourself. Have a great day. Don't forget to create something every day.